Good morning, Little Masters, and welcome back to today's Tolkien Times, a Prancing Pony podcast production. I'm the Man of the West, and it's time to keep Week 83 going as we continue Túrin Turambar Tuesdays for the rest of Series 11. Now, last week, Túrin's pride led to the downfall of Nargothrond and the death of King Orodreth and Gwyndor, who gave Túrin some important counsel with his last words. We ended with Glaurung issuing from the gaping doors of Nargothrond to confront Túrin. Then suddenly he spoke by the evil spirit that was in him, saying,
"Hail, son of Húrin, well met."
Then Túrin sprang about and strode against him, and the edges of Gurthang shone as with flame. But Glaurung withheld his blast, and opened wide his serpent eyes and gazed upon Túrin. Without fear, Túrin looked into them as he raised up the sword, and straightway he fell under the binding spell of the lidless eyes of the dragon, and was halted moveless. Then for a long time he stood as one graven of stone, and they too were alone, silent before the doors of Nargothrond. But Glaurung spoke again, taunting Túrin, and he said,
"Evil have been all thy ways, son of Húrin, thankless fosterling, outlaw, slayer of thy friend, thief of love, usurper of Nargothrond, captain foolhardy, and deserter of thy kin. As thralls, thy mother and thy sister live in Dorlomen, in misery and want. Thou art arrayed as a prince, but they go in rags, and for thee they yearn. But thou carest not for that. Glad may thy father be to learn that he hath such a son, as learn he shall."
And Túrin, being under the spell of Glaurung, hearkened to his words, and he saw himself as in a mirror misshapen by malice, and loathed that which he saw. And while he was yet held by the eyes of the dragon in torment of mind, and could not stir, the orcs drove away the herded captives, and they passed nigh to Túrin, and crossed over the bridge. Among them was Finduilas, and she cried out to Túrin as she went, but not until her cries and the wailing of the captives was lost upon the northward road did Glaurung release Túrin, and he might not stop his ears against that voice that haunted him after. Then suddenly Glaurung withdrew his glance and waited, and Túrin stirred slowly, as one waking from a hideous dream. Then, coming to himself, he sprang upon the dragon with a cry, but Glaurung laughed, saying,
"If thou wilt be slain, I will slay thee gladly. But small help will that be to Morwen and Nienor. No heed didst thou give to the cries of the elf woman. Wilt thou deny also the bond of thy blood?"
But Túrin, drawing back his sword, stabbed at the dragon's eyes, and Glaurung, coiling back swiftly, towered above him and said,
"Nay, at least thou art valiant, beyond all whom I have met. And they lie who say that we of our part do not honor the valor of foes. See now, I offer thee freedom. Go to thy kin, if thou canst. Get thee gone, and if elf or man be left to make tale of these days, then surely in scorn they will name thee, if thou spurnest this gift."
Then Túrin, being yet bemused by the eyes of the dragon, as were he treating with a foe that could know pity, believed the words of Glaurung. And turning away, he sped over the bridge. But as he went, Glaurung spoke behind him, saying in a fell voice,
"Haste thee now, son of Húrin, to Dorlomen, or perhaps the orcs shall come before thee once again. And if thou tarry for Finduilas, then never shalt thou see Morwen again, and never at all shalt thou see Nienor thy sister, and they will curse thee."
But Túrin passed away on the northward road, and Glaurung laughed once more, for he had accomplished the errand of his master. Then he turned to his own pleasure, and sent forth his blast, and burned all about him. But all the orcs that were busy in the sack he routed forth, and drove them away, and denied them their plunder, even to the last thing of worth. The bridge then he broke down, and cast into the foam of Narog. And being thus secure, he gathered all the hoard and riches of Felagund, and heaped them, and lay upon them in the innermost hall, and rested a while. And Túrin hastened along the ways to the north, through the lands now desolate between Narog and Teglin, and the fell winter came down to meet him, for in that year snow fell ere autumn was past, and spring came late and cold. Ever it seemed to him as he went that he heard the cries of Finduilas, calling his name by wood and hill, and great was his anguish. But his heart being hot with the lies of Glaurung, and seeing ever in his mind the orcs burning the house of Hurin, or putting Morwen and Nienor to torment, he held on his way, and turned never aside. Glaurung is without a doubt my favorite Tolkien villain. Better than Melkor, better than Sauron, better than Ungoliant. There's something so terrifying about this hyper-intelligent, manipulative, powerful, evil dragon, and the way he twists just enough truth into his words to push all of Túrin's buttons. I mean, obviously, the ability to literally put him under a spell is a plus, but it's not his magic that makes him so scary. It's how he hides his evil under a feigned nobility of sorts, pretending to care about Morwen and Nienor, pretending to honor Túrin's valor, pretending to set Túrin free. His is the worst kind of evil, and I am here for it. Thankless fostering? Well, in a way, yeah. Right? Think back to the scorn with which he spoke of Thingol's halls when Beleg came to him and the outlaws. Outlaw? Well, yeah, I mean, that's just obvious. Slayer of thy friend. Wow, too soon, but true, Thief of love. Maybe not intentionally, but Gwyndor would have something to say. Usurper of Nargothrond? Well, yeah. Orodreth was really king in name only. Everybody was listening to Túrin, even when it came to that bad advice. Captain Foolhardy? Hey, Ulmo gave you advice and you didn't listen. There's truth behind every one of Glaurung's accusations, which makes it so much harder for Túrin to disbelieve his manipulations. Túrin's in a tough spot, cursed by Morgoth and now laid under the spell of Glaurung's gaze. Eventually we'll be talking about his choices and how much free will he actually has or doesn't have as he moves forward and makes his choices. For now, though, this wraps up this week's Turambar Tuesday. Be sure to join me again next week when Túrin has a chat with Brada and Finduilas is just hanging around waiting for Túrin. Sorry. In the meantime, please visit patreon.com/TolkienTimes to learn how you can join the Content Council, get an ad-free feed, a bonus episode every week, and more. And then please join me again tomorrow on today's Tolkien Times for Word Nerd Wednesday. Podcast listeners, please subscribe to the show in your apps. For those on YouTube, subscribe to the channel for all of the PPP productions, including my new streaming project, The PPP Plays. And be sure you're following @PrancingPonyPod on all your social media. Finally, as Faramir says, go with the goodwill of all good men.